Welcome to Live Without Limits, Unlock Your Potential, the ultimate blueprint to transform and shift your mindset. This podcast is where we explore the small daily actions that lead to extraordinary outcomes. And in turning personal growth into a daily habit, we're diving into a topic that could transform your life and how you make personal success a habit. So let me start with a personal story. A few years ago, I I have grown up with a disability, and I was born into an era before you had laws that guarantee people with disabilities the right to an education. Therefore, teachers did not understand that cerebral palsy affects how the brain processes information, or that I learn differently. And in the classroom, they have to teach in a cookie cutter way because they have to reach the most people possible. So if you're that unfortunate person that doesn't learn the way they teach, you struggle. And it took a long time, or it really wasn't until the late 60s that society started to accept people with disabilities as truly existing and being willing to adapt. And when I went to college, because I didn't have a good base at the secondary level, I struggled there. But once I got into studying psychology and mental health, my grades changed. And what I can tell you is the way I learn is I take the information in and I actually use it and apply it. And that's where I learn how to do things. And many times I find that often the best way for me is to learn it on my own because I understand how I learn, and because I couldn't get gainful employment because when I entered the workforce, it was the late 70s. You had the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which dealt with accessibility and employment, 503 and 504. But if you look at the Americans with Disabilities Act that was signed into law in 1990 and took effect in 1992, it really wasn't until that law was passed that people with disabilities had recourse if they were not being or passed over in the job market. But I found that I was always going to become an entrepreneur, but when I couldn't find gainful employment, that was my only option. And I had no family support systems because after my father passed away, my mother only wanted me living with her. And if I didn't live with her and allow her to continue to abuse me, she showed no support. And that's probably because she never was loved as a child and she didn't know how to show love as a child. And therefore, I had to learn on my own how to protect myself and take care of myself. Therefore, it's important to help you understand that you know yourself best and no one else can live your life for you. Only you can do that. So, one thing that I did was I learned how to take more control over my life and do the things that I had to do in order to become who I am today. So, what does personal success really mean? It's difficult for everyone, For some, it's about career growth. For others, it's about health, relationships, or simply feeling fulfilled. Whatever it means to you, habits are the building blocks. They are the invisible threads that weave our daily actions into long term achievements. Without the right habits, even the best relationships can fizzle out. Now, it takes 21 days of continuing to do the same thing before it becomes so ingrained in you that it becomes automatic. So, in this episode, we'll break down how you can understand the science behind habits, how you can shape your life, build routine that aligns with your personal definition of success, overcome challenges that derail your progress, and sustain your habits for long term growth. By the end of this episode, you'll have an actionable steps to turn your success goals into daily, repeatable habits. So let's get started. Now, that we've set the stage for how personal success can be built through daily actions, let's take a deep dive into the power of habits. Have you ever stopped to think about how much your life runs on autopilot? It's fascinating and slightly terrifying how much of what we do every day is driven by habits. So, how do habits shape our lives and the outcomes? Habits are like the software that runs in the background of our minds. They're the invisible forces driving our decisions, shaping our behaviors, and ultimately defining our outcomes. Whether it's your morning routine, the way you tackle your workday, or even how you unwind in the evening, these repetitive actions accumulate into the results you see in your life. If you have a habit of spending 10 minutes every day learning something new, imagine the knowledge you'd accumulate over a year. Now, compare that to someone who spends these same 10 minutes scrolling aimlessly on social media. The difference might not seem huge at first, but over time, the results compound and they're worlds apart. That's the power of habits. They may seem small, but their impact is exponential. Now, what is the science of habit formation? Cue, routine, and reward. Let's break down how habits are formed. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's science. Habits follow a three-step loop: cue, routine, and reward. Here's the cue. This is the trigger that tells your brain to go into autopilot. It could be something as simple as seeing your running shoes by the door or hearing the buzz of your morning alarm. Routine. This is the action or behavior itself, the habit. For example, lacing up your shoes and going for a run, or reaching for your journal to plan your day. Reward. This is the payoff that reinforces the habit. It could be the sense of accomplishment that you feel after a workout, or the clarity that you gain from journaling. The more you repeat this loop, the more your brain hardwires it as a habit. And here's the kicker: once a habit is formed, it requires far less mental effort to maintain. That's why habits are so powerful. They let you operate on autopilot while still moving toward your goals. Here are some examples of some successful individuals and their habits. So let's look at some of the real life examples of successful individuals who swear by their habits. Take Stephen King, for instance. He writes every single morning without fail, even on holidays. For him, it's not about waiting for inspiration, it's about the habit of showing up and putting words on paper. That's why he's been able to produce so many iconic novels. Another great example is Oprah Winfrey. One of the cornerstone habits of journaling, or is journaling. She writes daily to reflect on her life and set intentions. This habit, she says, keeps her grounded and focused on what truly matters. And of course, we can't forget Elon Musk. One of his habits is a relentless focus on time blocking. He schedules his day in 5-minute increments to ensure that every moment is spent productively. While his schedule may not be for everyone, the principle of using habits to manage time effectively is something we can all learn from. So, what these individuals have in common is simple. They've turned habits into tools for achieving greatness. Their success isn't luck, it's the result of consistent, intentional actions that compound over time. When you think about where you want to be in life, start by asking yourself, what small daily actions can I commit to? Habits are like planting seeds. With time, care, and consistency, they'll grow into something remarkable. Now, for years, I, I have the habit of the first thing I get up in the morning is that I make my bed, I get dressed, I eat something, and when I get dressed 3 days a week, it's to go to the gym. And even if I don't feel like doing it, I use the paratransit system, and I schedule them to come at 6:45, so I know they're going to be there. So I make sure that I'm ready or in the process of brushing my teeth and washing my face so that the moment I'm finished, I'm ready to walk out the door. Now, sometimes, because for me, getting dressed is not just putting clothes on, it's having to put compression stockings on, it's then having to put a knee brace on, then putting on shoes where one has to have a brace in it, because when I walk, I do not normally walk heel toe. I will drag my foot because I don't have control over it. And I don't have control over any of my right side. Plus, at this point and at my age, I also have the doctors watching for cataracts. And because I have one side that's stronger than the other, that and the cataracts are there, I also have to wear glasses now. And age makes a difference. So understanding that, and your body slows down as you age. But for me, exercise has been very important because I had surgery at 14, and it was to release the tendons that were very tight, and it helped. And because I was exercising 3 days a week, I was able to catch my balance. But as I aged, I got to where I couldn't catch my balance anymore. And because I don't always have the best circulation, my feet started swelling up. So that's why for me getting dressed is having the routine of first thing I do is make my bed, then I take care of some daily things that need to be done. Then the first next thing I do is I start getting dressed, and it takes me at least 5 minutes to get the compression stockings on. Then I gotta wrap my foot because the knee brace I have has silicone strips to hold it to stick to the skin. But depending on the weather, when it sticks to the skin, and because it's a heavyweight knee brace, I can develop water blisters. So I have to wrap it underneath the knee brace to protect the skin from getting irritated. Then it's putting on the rest of my clothes and putting on shoes. So that's what takes me the longest, and why it has to be a certain routine that I follow, and knowing the amount of time that it takes to do that so that I can make sure that I'm ready. But it's become such a habit because I've been doing it for so many years. And because of that, as I've aged, I am in probably much better health than many people I know, because having to deal with the disability, having to do the things that would help me in keeping the muscle strong and mobility. Whereas for many people as they've aged, because they didn't exercise, they have had to struggle. So when you're young, you might think you don't need to, but if you start when you're young, then as you get older, it becomes such a habit that you will be healthier in the long run, long term, by doing the right things when you're younger. So now we're going to talk about building a success oriented routines. And now that we've covered how habits shaped our lives and explore the science behind them, it's time to get personal. How do you take the idea of habits and align them while your unique definition of success? Let's break it down. Identifying your personal success goals and aligning habits to them. The first step is knowing what success looks like for you. Success isn't a one size fits all concept. For some, it's about financial freedom. For others, it's about finding balance, nurturing relationships, or living a healthier lifestyle. Take a moment to reflect. What does success mean to you? What are the specific goals you want to achieve? Once you have clarity on your goals, the next step is to align your habits with those goals. Think of habits as the building blocks that create the foundation for your success. If your goal is to improve your health, habits like exercising regularly or preparing healthy meals will get you there. If your goal is professional growth, habits like networking, reading industry related books, or organizing your tasks can make a huge difference. The key is to ensure that your daily actions are pointing to you, toward your bigger, vision, the importance of starting small and staying consistent. Now, here's where many people stumble. They are or try to overwhelm their entire life overnight. And while enthusiasm is great, trying to do too much too quickly often leads to burnout or frustration. Instead, start small. Let me give you an example. If your goal is to read more books this year, don't start with a commitment to read for an hour every day. That might feel overwhelming. Instead, start with just 5 minutes a day. It may sound insignificant, but remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. As the saying goes, small hinges swing big doors. Once you're consistent, you can scale up over time. Here's another trick. Focus on keystone habits. These are habits that naturally lead to other positive changes. For example, starting your day with exercise might not only improve your fitness, but also boost your energy, focus, and mood, which positively impacts other areas of your life. Key habits to cultivate for personal success. So, what are some of the most impactful habits that you can cultivate for personal success? Setting goals. Start every day by identifying 1 to 3 key priorities. Use tools like planners or apps. Track your progress. This keeps you focused on what truly matters. Time management. Create a system for managing your time effectively. One popular method is time blocking, dedicating specific chunks of time to important tasks. It helps eliminate distractions and ensures that you're working towards your goals. Mindfulness. Success isn't just about doing, it's also about being. Incorporating mindfulness practices like meditation, gratitude journaling, or simply taking a few deep breaths during a busy day can help you stay grounded and focused. Lifelong learning. Make it a habit to learn something new every day, whether it's reading, listening to a podcast, or taking a course. Continual learning keeps your mind sharp and opens eyes to new opportunities. Reflection and review. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect. What went well? What could you improve? And this habit helps you stay on track and achieve and adapt as needed. Habits are the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. By identifying your personal success goals, starting small, and cultivating impactful habits, you'll build unstoppable momentum towards the life you want. Now, we've talked about how to identify your success goals and build habits that align with them. But let's face it, creating new habits isn't about smooth sailing. Life happens, obstacles come up, and sometimes we get in our own way. So let's address some common challenges and how you can tackle them head on. So let's start with the big ones: procrastination and self-doubt. These are things that also affect our time management. So procrastination, as you know, you should do something, but somehow you always find a reason to put it off. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too tired today. Or I'm just not the right time. Sound familiar? The truth is, procrastination is often a mask for fear of failure, fear of discomfort, or even fear of success. Now, let's talk about self doubt. There's self doubt, that little voice in your head saying, who am I to achieve this? Or I'll never stick to it. So why bother? These thoughts can be incredibly destructive, making it hard, even short, let alone stay consistent. Now, before I get into perfectionism, here's how self doubt gets started. You have a parent who is always negative, who's always going to tell you things like, oh, you're going to fail. Oh, you can't do that. And that's them talking about themselves. And because they can't do it, they are jealous of you if you achieve something that they can't. So they plant that self doubt into you. And understanding that helps you really get to the point where you recognize what's happening and you're able to deal with it better. Now, perfectionism is something that happens if you've got a parent that you're trying to strive to get their attention because they're not around and you want them to care about you. So that kind of is where perfectionism comes in. And that's something that you put on yourself. So the perfectionism is the belief that if you can't do something perfectly, it's not worth doing it at all. This mindset can lead to a lot of false starts or giving up too soon. So here are some strategies that you need to do in order to learn to become accountable to yourself. Find an accountability partner. Share your goals with someone that you trust, a friend, a family member, or even a coach. When someone else is aware of your intentions, you're more likely to follow through. Better yet, find someone who's working on similar habits so that you can support each other. Habit trackers. Use a habit tracker to visually monitor your progress, whether it's a physical journal or an app. Seeing your streak grow can be incredibly motivating. If you miss a day, don't panic. Just get back on track the next day. Focus on the next step. When procrastination strikes, break your habit into the smallest possible action. Instead of thinking, I need to work out for 30 minutes, just tell yourself, I'll put on my workout clothes. And that first step is all it takes to build momentum. Create a trigger. Remember the habit loop we talked about earlier. Use cues to remind you of your habit. For instance, if you want to start journaling, place your notebook next to your morning coffee mug. Make it easy to remember and hard to ignore. The role of self-compassion and celebrating small wins. This is why when we look at a goal, it can be very daunting to see the end game. And I remember a story that I heard where a farmer took his grandson out to help him plant. And the grandson said, I can't do all that. And what the grandfather said was, turn your back on the end goal and start doing what we need to do. And then as you're going backwards, you're seeing the progress you're making towards your goal so that by the time you get to the end row, it's done. So here's an important piece of that often gets overlooked. Self-compassion. Building new habits isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. So when you slip up, and you will, because we're human, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust and move forward? Celebrate your small wins along the way. Did you complete a full week of sticking to your habit? High five yourself. Did you journal 3 times this week instead of your goal of 5? That's still progress worth celebrating. Acknowledging these wins not only boost your confidence, but also reinforces your commitment. Remember, forming habits is a journey. It's not a race. Obstacles like procrastination and self-doubt are just speed bumps, not dead ends. By using strategies like accountability partners, habit trackers, and most importantly, practicing self-compassion, you'll be better equipped to navigate the ups and downs. And what we're going to do is we'll talk about sustaining your habits for the long haul and ensuring that they become a part of your daily life. Now that we've tackled the challenges of forming habits and how to overcome setbacks, let's focus on the long game. Building habits is one thing, but keeping them alive is where the real magic happens. So we're going to do a deep dive into how to maintain momentum, avoid burnout, and ensure that your habits grow with you. So here are some tips on maintaining momentum and avoiding burnout. Let's start with momentum. Building momentum is like riding a bike. It takes effort to get started, but once you're moving, it's easier to keep going. So how do you stay in motion? Focus on the why. Always remind yourself why this habit matters to you. Write it down, visualize it, or create a vision board that keeps your goals front and center. When you connect your habits to a bigger purpose, it becomes easier to stay committed. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Momentum builds when you feel a sense of accomplishment. So take time to celebrate even the smallest wins. Maybe you stuck to your habit for 5 days in a row. Acknowledge that. Progress, not perfection. is the goal. Here's an underrated strategy. Give yourself permission to rest. Burnout often comes from going too hard, too fast. If you're running on fumes, take a day to recharge and return stronger. Think of it as a part of the process, not a setback. Switch things up. If your routine starts to feel stale, tweak it. If you're bored with your usual workout, try a new activity. Variety keeps things fresh and exciting. The importance of adaptability and regularly revisiting your habits. Habits aren't static, they need to evolve as you do. What worked for you 6 months ago might not fit your life now, and that's okay. The key is the be adaptable. Set aside time. Make once a month to reflect on your habits and ask yourself, is this habit still serving my goals? Am I seeing the results I want? What adjustments can I make to keep it effective? If your goal is to stay healthy, but you've been walking 10 minutes a day and it's no longer challenging, maybe it's time to add strength training or increase your walk to 20 minutes. Evolving your habits ensures that they stay aligned with your growth. How to measure your success and keep evolving your habits. So, how do you know if your habits are actually working? It starts with measuring success. Track your progress. Use a journal app to even a simple checklist to track how often you stick to your habit. Seeing your consistency on paper or your phone can be a great motivator. Focus on outcomes, not just actions. Don't just ask, did I do this habit today? Instead, ask, is this habit helping me move closer to my goal? If your goal is to better focus and you've been meditating daily, are you noticing a difference in your productivity? Adjust based on results. If the habit isn't yielding the results you want, don't be afraid to tweak it. Maybe you need to change the time of day you're doing it or pair it with another habit to make it stick better. Celebrate milestones as you hit major milestones like a month of consistency or achieving a specific goal. Celebrate. Treat yourself to something meaningful, like a new book, a night out, or even just a quiet moment to reflect on your growth. Building and sustaining habits is an ongoing process. By focusing on momentum, staying adaptable, and measuring your success, you'll create a system that not only supports your goals, but grows with you. So personal success starts not at the finish line, but a long-term journey. So now I'll leave you with one last thought. What's one small habit that you can start or revisit today? Think about it. You're got. Wait a minute. You've got this. Now, Here's something that I'm going to tell you about. I have a saying that I keep on my computer, and it's from Carl Jung. It's not what happened to me, but it's what I choose to become. Because who you are is who you are inside. And that's what people see. And if you're a very negative person and you mistreat people, then you're telling them that's okay to treat me that way because that's how I expect to be treated. So let's take a moment to recap what we've covered today. We started by exploring how habits shape our daily lives and the science behind them, the cue, the routine, and the reward loop that helps turn actions into automatic behaviors. We then dove into how to align habits with your personal success goals, emphasizing the importance of starting small and staying consistent. We also talked about overcoming common obstacles like procrastination, self doubt by using strategies like accountability partners, habit trackers, and practicing self compassion. So then we finally discussed how to sustain habits over the long term by maintaining momentum, staying adaptable, and measuring your success. These tools are all designed to help you create habits that not only stick, but also grow with you. So here's my challenge to you. Choose just one habit to start today. It doesn't have to be big or life changing right away. Maybe it's writing down 3 things that you're grateful for each morning, spending 5 minutes stretching, or setting aside time to plan your day. Whatever it is, start small and focus on consistency. Remember, the smallest actions can create the biggest transformations over time. Now, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this episode of Success on Autopilot. So if you found today's discussion valuable, don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with a friend, or leave a review. Your support means that the world to me and helps to spread the message of growth and positivity. And until next time, remember that those small steps, and I'll see you on your journey to success.